technical regulations as the drivers now make their way onto the track for the first their sighting, then their formation lap. So it is qualifying heat number 1, A and B for the Junior Max division. Your front row, it's Mike van Vogt and Robert de Haan from the Netherlands on the front row. Then it's Zuleyman Zanvari and Colin Kerzani, row 2. Chris Hanen and Wilgot Edquist, row 3. James Wharton from Australia and Kobe Pauls from Belgium on row 4. Dante Rapagna and Jan Bokos, row 5. Linus Henson, Jamie Day, row 6. Roderick Picker and Georgie Zwain, row 7. Viggo Hjorvard, Arthur Rojon, row 7. Row 8. Rasmus Valsten and Zen Rudenberg, row 9. Malte Adolfsen and Jerzy Spinkovits, row 10. Samuli Salmi, Noah Degbol, row 11. Ollie Pilker, Philip Yannick, row 12. And rounding out the order, it's Sofia Zanfari and Simon Billman. So the drivers will have to get into a 2x2 rolling start formation. So it's it's 2 Dutchmen at the front with Van Vogt and de Haan. Behind them, Zanvari, Kerzani, Hanen and Edquist. That is your top 6. And rounding out the top 10, it's James Wharton, Kobe Pauls, Dante Rapagna and Jan Pokos. So, this is where it's really going to kick off now here in Sweden, as we're fast approaching, just seconds away for getting our first qualifying heat of round 2 of the 2018 Rotax Max Euro Trophy season here in Sweden. Drivers are now slowing to a crawl. One driver trying to catch up at the back of the pack. I think that's Zanfari, as the drivers now enter the tram lines, and they're being held. And lights out, we go racing, and it's a great hole shot for Mike van Vogt into turn number 1. So it looks like we've got de Haan down in 3rd place already. So it looks like Kerzani or Zanvari has made an advantage already as they go through into the first part of this very technical part of the other side of the track here. So Van Vogt is leading, and looks like, I'm just seeing, is that the 352? That is Zanvari now up into 2nd position. And it looks like, I think de Haan and Hanen might be in 3rd and 4th respectively. They're coming through the final couple of the last part of the track here. So everyone has got through so far. There is some fighting down at the back part of the grid as the leaders now come through to complete lap number 1. Here we go. Mike van Vogt is clearly in contention at the front of the field, and behind him is Zuleyman Zanvari, and the gap isn't that far adrift between the pair of them. And Kerzani is now up into 3rd position. Top 3 now starting to break away slightly. And de Haan is 4th, Hanen 5th, Kobe Pauls now up into 6th position, having started 8th. So the Belgian is already trying to get up the field as quickly as possible. As I said earlier on in the coverage, he is out for redemption after what happened in the second final at Belgium, but it looks like there is battling up and down the order, and it's really getting very interesting in this early stage. So we have just under 5.5 minutes plus an additional lap in this first qualifying heat for the Junior Max contingent. So Van Vogt continues to lead, but Kerzani is putting Zanfari under pressure as they come around the final couple of corners onto the start-finish line. Start-finish straight they come. Van Vogt leads, Zanfari 2nd, Kerzani 3rd, de Haan in 4th, Hanen 5th. Wharton now gets past Pauls for 6th position, so the Aussie is really doing a great job as he made an overtake on Pauls a little bit earlier on in the last lap. I think it was just before the halfway point of the track itself, as the leaders come through the come through towards the end part of sector number 2, which they'll fast approach very shortly in the next 4 or 5 seconds. And it looks like Hanen is... Oh, and it looks like de Haan has just lost out 2 places in the process, and it's nearly 3 abreast coming into the far part of the track here. And Kerzani has got past Zanfari for 2nd position. So at the moment it's Van Vogt still continuing to lead. The gap was 0.38 of a second. I think it might be over half a second this time around. 0.8 of a second between himself and Kerzani. Dahan third, Harnan, Wharton, Zanvari, Edquist. Powell's now all the way down in 8th position, which is exactly where he started around 4 minutes ago, around 3 minutes ago. So it is still 4 minutes plus an additional lap. Other changes up the field. Pokos has now got up into 10th, Picker into 12th, Day into 13th, Sprinkovitz 14th. And it looks like Hjorvard is the first driver to not complete this race. Meanwhile, Van Voort is getting away from Kerzani, who is pulling Dahan along with. And Zanvari looks like it's just sort of keeping it. The 352 of Suleiman Zafari is still up in the sharp end of the field, but has got Edquist in the 331, hot on his heels, 4th position. This is for 6th. Top 3 now really starting to break away. The gap between Dahan and Harnan last time around was a second between the 312 and the 321, as Van Voort is continuing to lead, has kept the lead very, very stable at around just under 0.8 of a second. So top 10 at the moment, it's Van Voort leading from Kerzani, Dahan, Harnan, Wharton is it rounds out the top 5, with Zanvari in the 352 ahead of Edquist, Pauls, Rapagna and Bokos rounding out the top 10. So leaders now coming around to the final couple of corners, and from Harnan, as it looks like there was someone trying to make a move just then, and I think that was Edquist looking again at Zanvari for 6th position. Yes, and I can see just off what I think is probably going to be turn 4 or 5. Hjorvard's cart is stricken, but it is away from the track, so the driver is safe with one of the marshals away from the barriers, as Mike Van Voort continues to lead, has extended the gap to just under 8.5 of a second in this first qualifying heat. So Dahan makes it a trio of Dutchmen at the front. So Van Voort continues to lead, looks to have that gap at a consistent one, if I'm not very much mistaken, as they now come around the final corner. Now apply the throttle and just put it fully down to the floor into turn 1. Now this is a really interesting turn 1 as well, as the gap between Van Voort and Kerzani has now extended to just over a second. Dahan in 3rd. And you've got Harnan and Wharton battling over 4th and 5th position a little bit further down the field, with Zanvari, Edquist, Pauls. So Pauls has lost out to Edquist. Rapagna and Pokos ran at the top 10. Picker's now up into 11th and is taking Day with him. Artur Rojon now up into 14th place, as the battle for 2nd position is intensifying between Kerzani and Dahan. The 347 is trying to keep the number 321 at bay. So 37 seconds plus an additional lap to go. And it looks like, I'm just wondering, is that a mechanical for the 306? That is a mechanical black flag for the number 306 of Rudenberg. So 15 seconds plus an additional lap on the clock. Mike Van Voort from the Netherlands has continued to lead from the minute lights went out 7 minutes ago. So this time around it will be the final lap. Time has expired, 1 lap to go when Mike Van Voort from the Netherlands in the 317 comes round the final couple of corners. Here comes the young Dutchman now, round the final couple of corners, puts the hammer down, pushes the throttle to the absolute limit. And it's still nip and tuck between Kerzani and Dahan. The gap between the pair of them was just under 0.3 of a second. But in going through turn 1 into turn 2, Dahan seems to have a bit more of a hooked up cart, but Kerzani is still able to keep him at bay for the minute. Day has got past Picker in the meantime, gone up to 11th position as the youngster from the UAE. So we're fast approaching the conclusion of our first qualifying heat. Oh, and there's a move up the inside from Dehaan on Kerzani in the last throws of this final lap. What a great move by the 321. Timed it to absolute perfection. But Kerzani is not giving up with the fight as Mike van Voogd comes round the final couple of corners. Checkered flag is being prepared and the Dutchman in the 317 takes it. And it's Dehaan that beats Kerzani at the line. What a great manoeuvre in the final sector. And it was a drag race between Pauls and Edqvist. And Pauls just gets it by a handful, an absolute handful. So Kobe Pauls managed to get back into 7th position at the flag. But what an opportunistic move, timed to perfection by Dehaan in the 321 to take 2nd. But when it was all said and done after that race, Mike van Voogd from the Netherlands in the 317 opens up his weekend of racing with a clear, convincing win by over 1.9 seconds. So, Mike van Voogd takes the win in the opening qualifying heats for the Junior Max division in front of Dehaan by 1.943 seconds, who stole a march on Kerzani going into the final sector on the very last lap. Haanen took 4th ahead of Zanvari. Wharton, Pauls, Edqvist, Rapagni, Pocos ran out the top 10. Then Jamie Day was 11th ahead of Roderick Picker, Arturo Jean, Linus Henson, Jerzy Spinkovits, Ollie Pilker, Georgi Swain, Adolfsson, Yannick, Degbol, Volston, Billman, Zanvari, Rudenberg, who was mechanically black flagged. Meltsami was also out with 2 laps remaining, 2 laps ago, with Vigor Hjorvard, unfortunately a DNF for this particular race.